Gem International is a new diamond explorer in the richest diamond-producing country in Africa, located next to the fourth largest producing diamond mine in the world. International Spotlight is on an 1109-carat diamond, recently discovered in Africa by a fellow Canadian junior, with a proven operator and finance team. Gem International trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol GI. Visit us at gemdiamondmining.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Mish Shedlock, editor of Mish's Global Economic Trend Analysis on MishTalk.com. Welcome back to the show, Mish, and Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year. Euphoria set in. Did you see that?
Yeah, the highest small business confidence since the 1980s.
Yeah,
I didn't know Bubba got reelected.
Yeah, it's the biggest one I could. The chart only goes back to 1986, so I'm just going to take Bloomberg's word for it here that it goes back to 1980. But and then everyone's yapping about this. The rising confidence adds to the economy upward momentum. Said Jim Sullivan, chief economist at High Frequency Economics. I can't say I've ever heard of him. And we haven't seen numbers like this in a long time, said Juanita Dunnigan, president and chief executive of NFIB, in a statement. Small business is ready for a breakout. Now, the weird thing about this is the index is made up of 10 items. Plans to increase employment, plans to make capital outlays, plans to increase inventories, etc. It's earnings trends, credit conditions. 88% of this rise in the index today was on basis of an expectation the economy will improve and an expectation that retail sales will be higher. They're not going to actually do anything here. Plans to increase inventories, 0. Plans to increase employment, 1%. Plans to make capital outlays, 6%. Current job openings, -3%. So it's all expectations and no actions. But what can you say? People are euphoric over Trump.
Well, it sounds like they expect him to kick a few $1 billion or two off the back step of a pickup truck.
Yeah, and right into the hands of the small businesses. I don't know. I posted a chart on my blog, and normally, actually what you see, what the chart shows going back to 1986, is that bottoms in sentiment usually mean the stock market's about ready to pick up. But tops in sentiment don't mean anything. I suspect it does this time because I can't analyze all these previous tops back to 1986 because the data's not there. But this is all based off of expectations rather than anything they're going to do. So I asked the question, what good is this going to do? If any, at best, it means nothing.
Well, we do know, though, small business is the economic engine in both Canada and the U.S. If small business is happy, doesn't that mean other things are going to improve?
Well, if they're not hiring, if they're not doing capital improvements, I don't think the happiness is going to last long.
Perhaps they're happy that they don't expect things to get worse.
Well, they don't. And I suspect that all of this is a contrarian indicator at this point.
In other words, still sell and take a look at what you have left afterwards?
I guess so. I think this is just bad news for the stock market. Everyone is generally, periods of euphoria where no one is even acting is generally marks tops. I've had my own experience this year trying to use sentiment to call tops. Very, very difficult. Much easier to use sentiment to call bottoms. Bottoms are typically points. Tops are a long, rounded process that sometimes go on forever. So, I wouldn't tell people to put too much into this, but it doesn't look good from where I sit.
Well, some other analysts have told me they expect really 2 years of tough sledding here for the new president. And no matter who he has in the cabinet, there are so many problems left for him to solve that he'd have to be more than a miracle worker to look after them. We
have problems, really. The news media is bragging today about how much President Obama did for the economy. So any mention of problems doesn't go along with the media script. So you better be careful. Someone might ban you for talking like that. That's all part of the problem here, and all of this stuff here with WikiLeaks and Hillary, the outgoing Obama administration here is trying to lay the ground here to ridiculous extremes that Hillary would have won if only Russia hadn't been involved, and the weird thing about that is I'm not even convinced that Russia was involved. Now, perhaps they were. It could have been private citizens. It could have been someone from Canada who wants the pipeline to go through. I'm not saying how likely that is, but it could have been someone from Israel who welcomed Trump versus Hillary Clinton, who's been very wishy-washy on Palestinian settlements. So it could have been any number of other people, including, of course, Russia. But it's pretty lame to blame this on Russia when the DNC had a password of password and also responded to phishing requests. They weren't hacked. The DNC was not hacked. Someone responded to a request for them to reset their passwords. They did it in a way that was disclosed to someone, and someone hacked all of those emails, and they put them out there on WikiLeaks. But there wasn't a single thing in any of those links that was inaccurate. So, how can the DNC blame anyone but themselves?
Is it a political mistake for Prime Minister Trudeau not to go to Trump's inauguration?
I didn't realize he wasn't, but a whole number of people, or mainly actors and the like, have refused requests to go to his election. I didn't hear that. So what was the grounds? What did he say?
Well, he hasn't really said why he's not going.
He just said he wasn't.
He just said he wasn't. Also, it's really interesting. Canada's new Foreign Affairs Minister, Friedland, well, she's one of 13 Canadians who have specifically been banned from Russia.
Congratulations. I highly doubt she wanted to go there anyway. And that's another interesting thing about this. Someone sent me an email, accusing me of kissing Putin's ass and all this stuff and being a Putin lover. And they asked me, so, well, if you hate the U.S. so much, why don't you, move to Russia? Well, first off, I don't like Putin. I don't like Russia. I have nothing against Russia, actually. I just would not want to live there, but I absolutely don't like Putin. But I don't like a lot of world leaders. I don't particularly like the leadership in China. I don't like President Obama. I did not like George Bush. There are governments I like better than others, and New Zealand maybe it would come to mind, but I don't live there, so I don't know enough to comment. But just because you look at one side of an issue doesn't mean you want to move to that country. It's crazy, but that's the mentality here we're in right now. It is the same rush to judgment that we saw in the Vietnam War. It's the same rush to judgment we saw in the war in Iraq. It's the same rush to judgment by the media right before everything bad happened. Libya, it comes to mind. Iraq, Afghanistan come to mind. Vietnam, of course. So, and here we go again. A president has whipped up sentiment here to do something when the best thing to do is nothing.
Do you think Trump's cabinet will be progressive when it comes to business? And they said the first thing they want to do is cut every regulation they can.
I actually don't know what he will do. I suspect he's going to do some good things and some pretty bad things. Building a wall on the border of Mexico, actually, in terms of cost, is pretty trivial by U.S. standards. How many billions of trillions of dollars we blow on everything, but it's a very bad idea. And but maybe he sees through to do it. Congress has to pass it first, so that might not happen. But cutting some of the regulations he wants to do, I think that's a good idea. Improving relationships with Russia, I think is a good idea. Straining relationships with Iran is a very bad idea. So I think you have to look at it as a mixed bag, and which is how I look at it. When I look at what I believe Hillary would have done, it was not a mixed bag. It was all a bad bag. So I'm grateful that Trump won, but we have to see. We have to see what he actually does. Some of the stuff that he said was clear campaign rhetoric, but we don't know how much, and we don't know how much Congress is going to let him get away with what he really wants to do. Build a wall? I don't know. Bad idea? Will he do it? I don't know.
Great for the construction business.
Yes, it is. It is. If it's great for the concrete business, the construction business, the steel reinforcing business that it would take to do this, and all a waste of I don't know. I've seen estimates all over the place. Let's call it $50 billion. Maybe it'll be more or slight bit less. The idea that Mexico is going to pay for this is totally crazy. It's not going to happen.
Well, the Berlin Wall didn't stop people from getting over it or under it or through it. Hadrian's Wall didn't keep the hordes away from the Roman cities in the south of England. And the Great Wall of China didn't stop the Mongolians. Why does he think this wall will work?
Well, I don't know. Actually, the Berlin Wall did stop people.
Most of them.
A lot of people tried to get through it. Some did. Some got shot trying to get through it, tunnel under it, whatever. But eventually, the wall came down. But the problem with the whole wall is when you have policies that give free benefits and free handouts, and you encourage people to come over and get them, that's what they're going to try and do. Rather than building a wall, which is attacking a symptom of a problem, why don't we attack the problem, which is giving free handouts to illegal aliens who come over here and get benefits? That's where the problem is.
And of course, Mexican goods are going to be even more attractive. The peso has hit a record low because of all this Trump talk.
That's the real problem here. We need to look at this thing. We need to step back, and I've been meaning to write a post on this and look at both sides of this equation. Okay. Yeah, Ford announced, 700 jobs, or Carrier was 700 and Ford was 1,000 or something. Okay, so let's say we save a couple thousand jobs here, by this policy that would otherwise exist in Mexico. But to do that, the peso has crashed. The amount of goods that Mexico can buy from the United States is heading south in a serious way. The cost of cars for everyone who wants to buy them in the U.S. is going to go up as a result of this. We can't build these cars cheaper in Mexico, so we have to build them more expensively here in the United States. So if the cost of cars goes up, what does that say about the number of people who can afford them and are willing to buy them? That's going to go down. So all those alleged 2,000 jobs that we claimed we were going to get, well, you know what? Maybe we only get 1,500 of them. And what about all the shipping? What about the shippers, the truckers, from Mexico? They're delivering these cars here to the United States, hauling them around to their final destinations. Those people have jobs. Those people work. Trucking is not exactly horribly paid. It's not a great job, but for now, those jobs still exist. So, and those truck drivers stop at truck stops. They refuel with gas. They eat along the road. So the net gain in jobs here from bringing 1,500 jobs back to the U.S. is probably negative when you add up all the pluses and minuses across the board. So that's the reason why this policy is horrid. But we're going to see this kind of thing, and we're going to see similar kinds of things with China. And as far as I'm concerned, it's not good news for the U.S.
We'll have more with Mish Shedlock right after the break.
I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Mish Shedlock. Mish, I know international leaders are very concerned about international trade relations. Prime Minister Trudeau in Canada says he's now one of the few major world leaders who's still in favor of free trade.
Is he?
Well, that's what he says.
He just claimed that.
That's what he just said. I just watched his speech.
Well, you can watch speeches all you want. I don't know that if you're looking for a true free trade advocate, you can look at me. I believe a nice free trade arrangement. First off, it doesn't take two countries to agree to do free trade. All it takes is one, and a nice free trade legislation would consist of a single line of tax, which would be effective immediately. All tariffs are abolished. That's all it takes to do free trade. So if he's really in favor of free trade, how many tariffs does Canada have on goods? Why doesn't he just get rid of them? So he probably doesn't want free trade. Maybe I'm mistaken. I did not hear his speech. But if he really wants free trade, let's see it. I suspect he doesn't want free trade. He wants the same thing that the whole rest of the world wants. They want free trade in a way that benefits them only. Trump wants USA first. Canada wants Canada first. Finland wants Finland first. The UK wants the UK first, and so on and so forth. And they all stand back and say, well, okay, as soon as this country, does free trade, we will too. But you look at all of these agreements. You looked at, in particular, the Trans-Pacific Trade Agreement. It didn't do anything to eliminate tariffs on sugar. It didn't do anything, to eliminate tariffs on steel. It didn't do anything. All of these agreements do is a whole bunch of people get together in a room and they decide not how to make trade free. They decide, which constraints to put on and how big. So very few people are actually supportive of free trade. I follow a couple people on Twitter. An MP, Daniel Hannan, I think is his name, from the UK, is a true, genuine believer in free trade. It's very rare to find someone who really walks the walk instead of just talking the talk.
Well, look at how they jump on you if you have a little extra cash on you when you go across the border. It's always suspicious, isn't it?
Yeah, that risks to be confiscated for any of all kinds of numbers of reasons. So, we'll see. And it's unfortunately, for all this talk of people saying they want free trade, the EU is a customs union. It isn't a trade union. It's not a free trade union. The EU is absolutely freaking horrific. The UK is Brexit is going to serve the UK well. They can negotiate better deals. And right now, the amount of tariffs on agricultural policies, the EU is the worst in the world. And the third world countries are screaming at the EU, madder than a hornet, because of their trade policy. What are we doing? We're protecting the small French farm to preserve the small French farm way of life. I'm sorry, that's just bullshit. But that's what goes on, and the U.S. takes the position, oh, well, we'll get rid of our agricultural tariffs if the EU does. The U.S. knows damn well the EU ain't going to get rid of theirs, so nothing gets done. Year after year, I've been following these trade negotiations since 2004, and they all fail. Every one of them have failed on agricultural tariffs. Every one of them.
Mike, I wish we did live in a free trade world. It would make life for me a lot easier to visit the relatives in Seattle. It would. And with that, Jim, I guess I got to go. Here's to a free trade world. If only your Prime Minister really meant what he said. Thanks a lot, Mike. Yeah, pleasure to be on the show. My guest has been Mish Shedlock, editor of Mish's Global Economic Trend Analysis on MishTalk.com. You're listening to HowStreet.com radio. If you have any questions for us, you can email us at info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.